Mancunian, actor and former Hobbit. I will be your tour guide for the journey. So settle down, get comfy, and enjoy the ride. First, a few messages. The tour lasts for approximately 90 minutes, but you can hop on or off at any of our stopping places. In the interest of safety, can you please remain seated at all times? We will pass under several bridges, therefore no standing is allowed on the upper deck at any time. Greater Manchester is a diverse and innovative city region of 2.75 million people. It is made up of 10 cities and towns: Manchester, Salford, Bolton, Bury, Oldham, Rochdale, Stockport, Tameside, Trafford and Wigan. And there are more than 200 languages spoken and more than 35 different cuisines available across the region. Manchester is an original modern city, a role it has performed for several centuries. Greater Manchester has, over the last 300 years, been a powerhouse for new ideas and pioneering achievement. There are at least 25 Nobel laureates associated with the city and Greater Manchester. Through its development in science, industry and technology, it has done much to create the modern world. Culturally, music, literature and drama, it has played a significant global role too. Manchester begins with the Romans and their fort of Mabicule and Castlefield, founded in AD 79, the same year Vesuvius erupted and destroyed Pompeii. It was a significant fall, and the strategic nature of the site would guarantee the town's future importance. After the Romans, Manchester was abandoned until resettled by the Saxons, who moved into the area around the cathedral. Gradually, it became the largest and most significant town in the region. Then something unprecedented and remarkable happened. In the 50 years either side of 1800, it became world famous, a byword for industrialization. Almost every country in the world had Manchester. Osaka was notably Manchester of Japan, and Ahmedabad was the Manchester of India, and there are so many in the United States of America we've lost count. Textiles, particularly cotton and engineering, led to this explosion and effectively far beyond industrial growth as a new type of society was launched, leading Manchester to gain the title of the shopping city of the age. And James Prescott Jewell, whose surname now constitutes the unit of energy, the Joule. The Great Hall features the celebrated Manchester murals, 12 paintings by pre-Raphaelite artist Ford Madox Brown, illustrating episodes in the city's history. The clock tower rises to 87 metres or 288 feet and houses Great Abel, the clock bell, named after the Lord Mayor at the time of opening, Abel Hayward. Every November and December since 1997, the area in front of the town hall and the surrounding streets were transformed into the Manchester Christmas Market, with over 300 stalls, bars and cafes. The town hall frequently features in movies and TV as the body double for the Houses of Parliament. For example, the first Guy Ritchie directed Sherlock Holmes, Robert Downey Jr., and the original House of Cards TV series. The town hall and town hall extension houses the city's administration. In 2016, Manchester became the first British council to have a majority of female councillors. Act for a City, which in 1903, Emmeline Pankhurst founded the Women's Social and Political Union, a movement better known as the Suffragettes. public memorial which predates the Manchester Town Hall by 10 years. The memorial was designed by Thomas Worthington. Under the canopy is a statue of Prince Albert by Matthew Noble. A little to the north of the memorial, again by Thomas Worthington, is the Jubilee Fountain from 1897, commemorating Queen Victoria's 60th year on the throne. Please stay seated. Known as Metrolink, Manchester's tram system is the largest in the UK. In 1988, government approval was granted to bring trams back to the streets of Manchester, and the first route between Bury and Victoria Station was opened in 1992. There are now 8 routes running through the city centre and into Greater Manchester. In addition, there is the Metro Shuttle, a free bus system numbered 1, 2 and 3, linking the main rail stations, car parks, shopping areas and businesses. Manchester city centre main radio transmitter crowns City Tower, the tallest element of the complex, at 107 metres, or 352 feet. The concrete decoration down the side is said to represent early computer circuitry, a nod to Manchester's status as a computer pioneer, particularly with the machine-tagged Baby from 1948, the first computer to have an electronic memory. As we approach the traffic lights, you might glimpse Manchester's Chinatown and its magnificent gate. The district has restaurants, medicine shops, financial and legal services, and supermarkets. Gay Village. The pedestrianised street, which runs along the west side of the Rochdale Canal, is lined with bars and restaurants. Canal Street was developed when the canal was constructed in 1804, a trade artery running through the city and the first waterway to cross the country, linking east and west coasts. Pubs and other businesses evolved to service the users of the canal. Canal Street is the hub for the Manchester Pride Big Weekend, held each August bank holiday. Starting off from humble beginnings in 1989, the event is now one of the largest of its kind within the UK. A-Town came to Manchester from Scotland in 1769. In his 20s, Roger married 65-year-old Barbara Minch to much scandal, who was one of the North West's wealthiest people and owner of swathes of land across Manchester. The most prominent building on the street is the mighty Crown Courts complex over the Rochdale Canal. It was designed by Thomas Worthington and opened in 1871 as the City Police Courts. Attention, we will shortly be travelling underneath an electric tram cable. For your safety, please stay seated.
Naomi, and I will be assisting Dominic with this tour today. If you've just joined the tour, welcome aboard. Get comfy and enjoy the ride.
Before 1755, the area, now known as Piccadilly Gardens, which lies on the left, was occupied by water-filled clay pits called the Daub Holes. In 1755, the Manchester Royal Infirmary was built here. The majority of the hospital buildings were demolished in 1910, and in 1914, the area was finally cleared and transformed into a large space within the city centre. It was in the former Royal Hotel in Piccadilly Gardens where the world's first professional football league was ratified in 1888.
An area known as the Northern Quarter. The streets around here, Newton Street, Lever Street and Stevenson Square, are characterised by large converted textile warehouses. They hint at Manchester's previous dominance, when the city controlled 80% of the world's cotton trade. UK production would peak between 1912 and 1914, with up to 8 billion linear yards of finished cotton production. The nearest rival was Japan with 56 million linear yards. Business declined after World War II, as production rose in countries closer to the raw material and with cheaper labour. The Royal Exchange closed in 1968, and there is no cotton industry in Greater Manchester today. The old warehouses in the city centre still provide strong bones for the city, and have now been converted into apartments, offices, bars and restaurants. Famous Northern Quarter shopping can be found in Affleck's Palace and Manchester Craft and Design Centre. There are numerous live music venues such as Band on the Wall, The Castle, Night and Day and Matt and Friends. Stevenson Square was previously Manchester's Speaker's Corner start point of marches and parades. Those seeking democratic reform, such as Chartists, union members and suffragettes, would address crowds here.
Manchester Arndale follows the curve of the road here on the left. Building commenced in 1972, and the area was a patchwork of mostly Victorian buildings, forming a 17th and 18th century layout of streets and alleys. This area has been rebuilt in the last couple of decades. On Saturday, June 15, 1996, the IRA detonated a powerful bomb in Corporation Street, causing devastating damage to the Arndale Centre and surrounding areas. There were no fatalities. The bomb rebuild has won many awards, provided far more public space, and attracted big names in retail and food and drink. These days, Manchester Arndale is home to over 200 stylish stores, making it one of the largest inner-city shopping centres in the UK. Brinkworks Entertainment Venue is located on the site of the business premises of the 19th century newspaper proprietor Edward Holton, established in 1873. Current premises became the largest city centre newspaper printing house in Europe and housed a printing press until 1986. Visitors today will find an array of restaurants, bars, clubs, and even an IMAX cinema. Building on the left over the tram line is the Corn Exchange, a fine Edwardian building mostly from 1903, now home to a wide variety of restaurants.
Our next stop is the National Football Museum. The green glass building on the left, hosting the National Football Museum, is called Urbis and opened in June 2002 as a symbol of regeneration after the IRA's 1996 Manchester bombing. Since 2012, Urbis has been home to the National Football Museum, which, covering 4 floors, has the largest collection of football-related memorabilia in the UK and attracts over 500,000 visitors each year.
The original Victoria Station was designed by George Stephenson and completed by 1844, of which part still remains in the current structure. The 2012 new block of Cheetham's School of Music is on the left. The school was established in 1969, incorporating Cheetham's Hospital School, founded as a charity school by Humphrey Cheetham in 1653. Events venue Manchester Arena, seen here, opened in 1995 and has the highest seating capacity of any indoor venue in the United Kingdom. The ancient sandstone walls of Cheetham's rise up on the left. These are in many ways the most enchanting Manchester buildings and the oldest complete structures in the city. They began life as priests' quarters for the nearby church in 1421. In 1653, through his will, successful merchant Humphrey Cheetham created a school for poor boys and a library, much of which can still be visited. Today, it is the School of Music. The library is the most precious space in the building and is now the oldest free public library in the English-speaking world. Manchester Cathedral is the seat of the Bishop of Manchester and the city's parish church. Parts of the cathedral date back to 1215. There's been a church on this site for around 1300 years. The cathedral was badly damaged during the Christmas events of 1940. Fortunately, most of the woodwork survived. Once across the River Irwell, we are now in the city of Salford, Manchester's twin. It received city status in 1926. A sleeping place until the Industrial Revolution, it shared its neighbours' sudden rise in the early 19th century. It has its own cathedral, university, and was home to the Port of Manchester, now the Quays, on the Manchester Shipping Hill. With Media City UK, the city hosts hosts the largest concentration of broadcast media in Europe.
The grassed area, the meadow, in the foreground was the home of the earliest known cricket clubs in the region. The pleasant green space on the right we are approaching features statues of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, surrounded by notable buildings. The oldest of these is the elegant central structure, and was adapted from a former private mansion called Lark Hill. This is now Salford Museum and Art Gallery. The museum and art gallery, with its interesting collections, are free of charge and contain a recreation of a 19th century Salford street, Lark Hill Place. The fierce red building to the left of the museum and art gallery as we look at it was opened as the Royal Technical Institute in 1896 by Henry Lloyd. The Institute eventually became the University of Salford in 1967. The 60s buildings to the right comprise part of the university, which has more than 20,000 students. Notable alumni include the comedian Peter Kay and the co-songwriter and guitarist of the Smiths, Johnny Marr. The last house on the left here is the Working Class Movement Library, a treasure trove of pamphlets, magazines, books, and other study materials, covering the vital role working class movements have played in creating our modern democracy. the intersection of the M602 motorway. However, the spire of the Stowell Memorial Church on the right has overlooked the area since 1867 and was built by public subscription after the death of devoted minister Hugh Stowell to honour his life and work. The church was closed in 1981 and demolished in 1990 telephone mast.
We are now approaching the headquarters of Manchester Ship Canal. In 1882, Daniel Adamson, an eminent Manchester engineer, organised a campaign for the construction of a canal to allow ocean-going traffic to sail inland as far as the city. Manchester Ship Canal was the largest single engineering project undertaken in 19th century Britain. Opened by Queen Victoria in 1894, the trade the canal generated, together with the largest industrial area of Trafford Park, helped bolster Manchester's industry for decades. In 1983, Salford City Council had acquired 220 acres of the Manchester Ship Canal Company. The area we're approaching was rebranded as Salford Quays, and redevelopment began in 1985. Between 1986 and 1990, the infrastructure of the docks modified to create an internal waterway network. Moorings and water sports facilities were provided, and a hotel, cinema, housing, and offices were built. The key to success was providing culture, retail, and food and drink. In the year 2000, the Lowry Theatre opened, which was the catalyst for the second and more successful phase of development. Attention! Shortly be travelling underneath an electric tram cable. For your safety, please stay seated.
Opportunities to eat, drink, and shop.
He is famous for his industrial city,
Manchester Ship Canal enabled the newly created Port of Manchester to become Britain's third busiest port, even though the city was about 40 miles inland. Despite opening in 1894, it was never the commercial success its sponsors had hoped for. The amount of freight carried by the canal peaked in 1958 at 18 million tons. The increasing size of ocean-going ships and the port's failure to introduce modern container methods resulted in the volume of freight dropping steadily, and the closure of the docks in Salford in 1984, 90 years after its opening. The canal's water quality has improved in recent years, and there are now several nature reserves along its banks. Locally, increasing populations of ducks, Canada geese, and even swans can be observed. This area of the quays is also commonly used for water sports. The 21st century ship canal is symbolised not by ocean-going liners, but by giant projects in sightseeing trips between Liverpool and Salford, operated by Mersey ferries. The bridge was refurbished and fixed in place as part of a scheme to widen the road to a dual carriageway. with the new bridge that we are driving on built alongside.
Manchester is far more than football, but certainly football provides Manchester with its 21st century dominant brand. The city is home to two of the most popular and successful football teams in the world, Manchester United and Manchester City. Of course, the city region's sporting heritage runs much deeper than football and includes the legacy of the 2002 Commonwealth Games, the successful and efficient coordination of which encouraged London to bid for the 2012 Olympic Games. An array of sporting events takes place year-round. Manchester United was founded as Newton Heath, Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway Football Club in 1878. It changed its name to Manchester United in 1902, moving to its current stadium here at Old Trafford in 1910. Manchester United have won a record number of league titles and cups. In the 1998-99 season, the club became the first in the history of English football to achieve the treble of the Premier League, FA Cup and UEFA Champions League. The club vies with Spanish giants Real Madrid and Barcelona as the world's most valuable football brand. The Old Trafford capacity of around 76,000 makes it comfortably the largest club ground in the United Kingdom. If you're not lucky enough to get a ticket for a game, a good way of experiencing United's potency is by visiting the Museum and Tour Centre. The museum provides an overview of the club's story.
The Imperial War Museum North is an unusual structure and worth a walk around to get a feel for it. Designed by Daniel Libeskind and opened in 2002. To create the building's design, Libeskind placed a ceramic teapot in a plastic bag and dropped it out of the window. 3 of the broken shards he arranged as a world shattered by war, in a pattern representing the 3 theatres of land, sea and air war. The message of the museum is stated as "War shapes lives." This is delivered without judgment, the facts and stories made before visitors, and covers conflicts since World War I. The temporary exhibitions are always worth visiting, and there are plenty of activities for kids, and of course a cafe and a shop. Coronation Street is a British TV institution. First broadcast on December 9, 1960, it is the longest-running serialised television drama in the world. The show was only commissioned for 6 episodes, and bosses at Granada TV were certain that it would be a failure. However, the British public became hooked on watching the lives of ordinary northern people living in working-class terraced houses. Until the late 1960s, all episodes were filmed within indoor sets at Granada's Key Street Studios in central Manchester. In 1968, Granada rented a railway yard alongside their studios to erect the programme's first purpose-built outdoor set. In 2014, the show moved to the Keys to form another area of Media City UK, and tours of the set can be pre-booked online. Look to the right. Have you spotted the white archways sat seemingly randomly between the main road and White City Retail Park? This was once the home of the White City Botanical Gardens. Trees and plants were brought in from around the world, and the gardens became extremely popular, both with those seeking relaxation and clean air in the city. The site eventually fell into disrepair and was closed in 1982. The archway is the only reminder of the gardens which could have easily become the Kew Gardens of the North.
As we make our way back to the city centre, let's contemplate more of Manchester's firsts. This time, in science and industry. John Dalton is a scientific colossus of Manchester. His atomic theory, 1803, and his pioneering work on the constitution of elements, was the precursor of all modern chemistry, whilst his lectures on meteorology turned the study of weather into a science. He was the first to describe colour blindness. James Prescott Joule's name, 1819 to 1889, is the unit of energy, the joule. Following his research into the mechanical equivalence of heat. Ernest Rutherford, working at Manchester University, discovered the nucleus of atoms and later how to split them in 1919. His assistant was Hans Geiger of the Geiger counterfeit. The life-size silicon bronze memorial of Alan Turing resides in Sackville Gardens, commemorating his achievements. Turing conceived modern computing and through helping to break the Enigma code played a vital part in the Allied victory over Nazi Germany in World War II. The first computer with a stored program and memory, nicknamed the Baby, was developed at Manchester University in 1948 by Professors Tom Kilburn and Fred Williams. The first child in vitro fertilization, IVF, was Louise Brown, born in Morgan General Hospital. The Nobel Prize in Physics for 2010 was awarded to Andrei Geim and Konstantin Novoselov at the University of Manchester for groundbreaking experiments regarding the two-dimensional material graphene, the so-called world's thinnest material.
Shown you around Manchester and Salford, you must have noticed the scale of new developments under construction. Multi-billion-pound investment in business, infrastructure and transport is flowing into the city, both domestically and globally. Huge multinational corporations, such as the BBC, have already relocated away from London to Manchester. As Manchester's population continues to soar, so does the demand for new high-rise residential developments, including properties that now dwarf Beetham Tower, for years the tallest building outside London. The immediate success of the railway meant it was copied across the country and then across the world. The station building is part of the Museum of Science and Industry, which is the next stop for this tour. People of all ages, especially families, will enjoy visiting the museum, and entry is free. The range of exhibitions is huge, covering steam engines, space, cotton, gas, water, electricity, computers, photography, aviation, Manchester's history, the city's part in pioneering achievement, and also a planetarium.
At 168 metres or 551 feet, Beetham Tower is easily the tallest building outside London. It delivers a stark, simple profile to the city, although its slender profile from east to west is dramatic, with a ratio of 1 to 10. It is one of the thinnest skyscrapers in it. The architect himself, Ian Simpson, lives on the top floor duplex that spans the whole building and includes an internal garden of lime, lemon, and oak trees. Bridgewater Hall opened in 1996 and was the first freestanding concert hall built in the UK since 1951. This former Manchester Central Railway station. The station was the northern terminus of services to London and opened in July 1880. After 89 years as a railway terminus, it closed to passengers in May 1969. It was renovated as an exhibition centre and was opened by the Queen in 1982. It plays a successful and very important part in city life. It is also host to conferences involving the main British political parties. Midland Hotel was built in 1903 by Charles Trubshaw for the Midland Railway Company. On May 4th, 1904, Charles Rolls met local manufacturer Frederick Royce in the hotel. Together, they created the Rolls-Royce Motor Company. Inside Adam Reed's celebrated French restaurant, diners have included Winston Churchill and General Patton. The Beatles will once refuse entry because they were dressed inappropriately. Attention, we will shortly be travelling underneath an electric tram cable. For your safety, please stay seated. Manchester Central Library opened in 1934. The opening was attended by King George V. Manchester school children before the event were given handkerchiefs printed with the brave words, "Knowledge is power." That remains true today, as does the library's popularity. Following refurbishment and reopening in 2014, there have been around 1.4 million visits each year. The two grandest spaces are the entrance hall, called Shakespeare Hall, and the Wolfson Reading Room. The library hosts exhibitions and events. There's a performance space and a media lounge, alongside specialist business, music, and children's libraries. Innovation and achievement. We would like to thank you for travelling with us, and we hope you found the tour to be enjoyable. Remember that your ticket is valid for 2 days, giving you the opportunity to explore some of the sites you've seen on this tour.